Hi there. This is the follow-up video to the previous one on Qaana, where I was taking the Pagspa writing system from Tibet and evolving it into a Conlang writing system that you can then use vertically. I've continued to make some modifications to it, and I thought I would cover those. Then I will work on some more modifications to it if necessary and keep checking the whole thing to make sure it's good. Like the previous versions, these will be available for download. I will have it in the description down below, along with a link to the previous video if you haven't seen it before. And I hope you enjoy this. I've had fun making it so far. Okay, so these are the glyphs for Kana, which, as I said, I took an existing writing system from Tibet called Pagspa. I hope I'm saying that right. And I have evolved it from the original design. I chose it because it's very linear and very simple, and it would be easy to recreate as a font. And it has been very easy to recreate so far. I've also modified it. I've adjusted some things. I've left out some glyphs that are part of the original system, which I don't need, and I don't think anybody else will need. When I had finished, I had evolved it to the point where it was usable, and I was quite happy with it, but I thought there was some things I need to change, and there were some things that were missing. First thing that was missing is it didn't have any numbers. So I've added numbers here across the top here. I'll type them on the bottom here. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, some of these are kind of close to the Arabic system that we use. They're not the same as what the Devanagari evolved and what Pagspa probably inherited. But I figure learning to use this as a writing system because of its linearity and similarity is going to be challenging enough to begin with without making numbers more complex. So hopefully this is a little easier to remember and hopefully it's usable. Now, I have added some things in here. That 0, it will print 2 zeros. So let's say 500 or 50,000, 500,000, 5,000,000, and so on and so on. It goes up to a trillion, I think. At that point, it gets less readable anyway. But I thought that was a funky innovation to add in there, and I like writing systems that are as compact as possible. Now, if you're just new to this, or if you weren't paying attention the last time or missed it, um, this has been written horizontally as a design. It's intended to be written vertically, and you can do that in the word processor by uh, creating a text box or uh, creating a table cell and then going in and telling it to turn it 90 degrees to the right, and it will let you write vertically. That's the only way I know of writing vertically in a word processor on the computer. So you have to design it left to right, and you have to design it horizontally, and then go that extra step when you want to present it vertically, unfortunately. Okay, so back to this. I've added the numbers. I've added some punctuation, again, close to what we normally use. Uh, Pugspot barely had any punctuation, and what it had was not at all intuitive and actually not that attractive to me. We have the colon, semicolon, less than, equals, greater than, a question mark, which looks an awful lot like a bracket. Um, and I think, oh, we have an ellipsis, 3 dots. I think that's it. Oh, no, we have more. I have a number sign. I have a dollar sign, which I don't like, and I'm probably going to change. A plus sign, a hyphen or minus sign, and a period. So that covers the punctuation part. The next thing I did was, if you go down here, these are all the glyphs for a consonant plus a syllable. That's so that you can go in here and type in, this is a semic, but let's say Haka, H-A-K-A, and it will go and pick the correct syllable pattern for it, right? P-I-M-U. So that was done last stream. I have, in the last stream, added these diacritics for vowels. It is a syllabary, so if I type in N-A, I get a symbol like that that represents a syllable N-A. Now, I did allow for typing just consonants, and they used to be like this up here, but with a short little line below them. And I decided I didn't like the look of that. So instead, I've added this little extension here on the bottom right-hand side of any of the consonants. So now when I go in here, if you look at the bottom there, when I type N, I get N with that little extension there. When I hit A, I get the symbol for NA without that extension. If I was to type an M, we would get M with the little hook at the bottom there. And you may have noticed there's a connection between them now, so words are joined together. That meant I had to add in all of these glyphs here, which are all the ones with the extension. And that meant I had to tell the font how to know when to display these. So these are all the glyphs that would be used after another glyph. If I type in pila, pilum, P-I, you get the P with two dots above it, which is the symbol for the syllable P, L, which right now has the little extension on the bottom there to indicate that it's all on its own, U, and a final M. And if you look, you'll see there's now a join between each of the glyphs. I thought that might improve readability by making words a little more cohesive. Okay, that involves a whole other technique, which I didn't talk about in the last stream. That feature is classes. So what classes are is a way of grouping together the glyphs in your font so that you can use scripting to manipulate which ones are used, basically simplify the OTF scripting that you need to use. So what I did was open up Notepad++ and type in all the glyphs, whether they're single sounds, digraphs, or actual syllables, all the possible combinations into a list like this, and then copy that and come over here, take the same list, but add .fina to the end of it for final. So we have two sets of all the glyphs that are possible here. Some of them don't have an extension, and the others do. And when we go to the font here, all the ones in pink are copies of the ones without the extension with .fina on them, and a little bar that is going to be connecting to the previous glyph. So I can display a glyph, and then anything that comes after it has the extension to connect them all together, like you can see down below here with Pilum. And you do that, as I said, by creating classes. Here is a class I created, call it init, because it's representing the start of words. And that has all the glyphs that were in green up there. And it has 181 elements. And here is the one called Fina. These could have been named anything, but this is sort of a convention. And that has the 181 glyphs in their secondary form when they're not the first syllable in a word. This is the same thing that you would do if you were trying to create a writing system like Arabic. But then you would have a class called isolated, which would be a consonant or vowel when it's not, it's just it, not any part of any other word. Initial, init, medial, which would be anything in the middle of a word, and Fina for anything at the end of a word. I've just shortcutted this process because with this system, I don't need to have more than that. Now, when we go to the features file, there are a few differences. At the top here, I used to have a setup that cut out the capital letters. Now I've added in capital letters that have the little tick on the bottom there that indicates they don't have a vowel. And you can use the uppercase if you want to type just consonants. Like if you want to type an abbreviation like KTP or something like that, you could just type in uppercase KTP and it won't join them together with vowels and things like that. So that's been remmed out here. Eventually I'll take it out. This next section here is just covering all that fancy little bit with the multiple zeros. Then we're down into the, there's some punctuation rules here. This is all the stuff that was there previously that displays the individual syllables. And then when we get to the very bottom, we have these two lines here. The first one says sub at init tick by at fina. The second one says sub at fina at init tick by at fina. And what those two lines do is the first one says if you have an initial syllable or glyph followed by another initial syllable, the second one should be displayed as a fina. And we can tell that by the tick. The tick indicates what gets replaced. So at init, if there's an initial glyph, followed by at init with a tick, this is the thing that's going to be replaced. Replace it by the at fina version. And the at part refers to classes. So when you see an at symbol at the head of something in here, it means you're talking about manipulating classes, not individual glyphs. The second line says, if you have an at fina and the user types in an init glyph, replace it with a fina. So that means that when you go to write a multi-syllable word, the first syllable will be displayed using the green version, the initial versions for the glyphs, and all subsequent ones, until there's a space, will be displayed using the final versions of it. And that's how it's possible to join all the glyphs together. And that's really the majority of the changes that I've made. Anything else is probably going to be some really subtle stuff, just making sure lines are running right and stuff like that. So that's probably this particular project done, unless I come across some other problem that needs addressing. If there is something like that, I'll put out a third video. I realized this video wouldn't really be complete without an example of the Qaana writing system in action. So here is a photo with some text laid out in Qaana. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you've picked something up from it. I will be making more videos on this subject, perhaps not using this script, but to explain the various concepts of how I put Conlang scripts together and how I create them. The font for this will be posted below on the video, and it is a file located on my Patreon page because that's a convenient place to store stuff. You don't have to join my Patreon. You don't have to spend any money or anything like that. This is all for free. I wanted to produce this to be illustrative of how people can build conlangs like this because I found that the information on YouTube right now is somewhat limited, and I thought I could offer clearer detailing on how all these things are possible. Thanks for watching.